Criminal case against former President Donald Trump involving alleged hush money payments made to adult film star Stormy Daniels and his alleged cover-up of how the payments were made.
So a new witness is expected to testify today before the grand jury in New York City. This after the former president said over the weekend he expects to be arrested tomorrow and is calling for his supporters to protest on his Truth Social network.
Well, WPTV's Derek Lowe is live near Mar-a-Lago with the latest. Derek?
On other reports that he has seen in the press. Now, of course, this investigation, it surrounds that alleged $130,000 hush money payment made to Stormy Daniels back in 2016. She's the adult film star, former film star.
Okay, so you're telling me that the people who swore they'd ride or die with Trump are now literally running for the exits? Like, are you kidding me right now? Because that's exactly what's happening in Washington this week, and honestly, it's absolute chaos. Speaker Mike Johnson is sitting in his office watching his entire world crumble around him. The same Republicans who were kissing the ring just a few months ago? Yeah, they're now lining up to talk to a grand jury, and they're throwing Johnson under the bus while they're at it? Can you believe this? Let me paint you a picture of what's going down. Count them, two major Trump allies in Congress just admitted they sat down with grand jury investigators. And here's the kicker. They're not defending Trump anymore. They're not defending Johnson. They're basically saying the whole thing has become toxic, and they're done with it. This is wild. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us, be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
DA's office is planning to call on former Trump attorney Michael Cohen to prove Trump falsified business records in order to pay off Daniels and improve his campaign. Legal experts say that falsifying records in New York is only a misdemeanor in most cases and would only be a felony if the falsifying was used to cover up another felony. The news now even causing potential primary opponents of Trump to react.
The hashtag abandoned ship is trending on X right now, with over 75,000 posts in just 2 days. People are watching this GOP implosion in real time, and honestly, it's like watching a slow-motion car crash. You can't look away. So what's actually happening here? Well, Trump's legal problems have finally caught up with him in a way that's making even his most loyal supporters nervous. We're talking about people who defended him through everything. Impeachments, investigations, scandals, all of it. But now they're seeing grand jury subpoenas, and suddenly their memory gets real clear about who did what. Johnson thought he could hold the line. He thought he could keep everyone together and weather this storm like they've weathered every other storm. But here's the thing. This isn't like the other times. This time there are actual legal consequences staring people in the face. And when that happens, loyalty goes right out the window. Come on. Did anyone really think these people were going to risk prison time for someone who threw them under the bus in a heartbeat? Please. The second things got real, the second actual prosecutors started asking questions, it all fell apart. And the timing? Oh man, the timing couldn't be worse. For Republicans, they're supposed to be focusing on the 2026 elections. They're supposed to be unified and strong and ready to take on Democrats. Instead, they're eating each other alive over a scandal that just won't go away. A leaked memo from House staffers, reported by Politico just yesterday, literally used the words growing panic among leadership. They're warning about irreparable damage to party unity if more people flip this week. Irreparable damage. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't some random backbencher causing trouble. This is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson watching his caucus turn on him because he hitched his wagon to Trump's legal defense. He made a bet that loyalty would be rewarded, and instead, he's learning what everyone else learned. Trump's loyalty only goes one way. Legal experts on MSNBC are already talking about how this could completely undermine Trump's political standing going into the primaries. And honestly, they're probably right. When your own people start cooperating with prosecutors, when they start saying the atmosphere is toxic and they're changing their priorities, that's not just bad press, that's a fundamental collapse of your power base. The Republicans who are still defending Trump right now, they're watching this and they're sweating. Because if these two flipped, who's next? How many more are sitting on information that could become a problem? How many more are one subpoena away from singing like a canary? This is the kind of story that changes everything. Not because of what's happened, but because of what it means for what's coming next. The walls are closing in. Yeah, I said it. And the people inside those walls are scrambling to save themselves. And here's what really gets me. Johnson probably saw this coming. He had to know that at some point someone was going to break, but he went all in anyway. He bet everything on the idea that Republicans would stick together no matter what. And now he's learning the hard way that when federal prosecutors come knocking, all those promises and all that loyalty just evaporates. The irony here is just incredible. Johnson rose to power specifically because he was seen as a Trump loyalist. He was the guy who could unite the MAGA wing with the establishment. He was supposed to be the bridge that kept everyone together. And now, that very loyalty is destroying him. The thing that made him speaker is the exact thing that's going to take him down. You know what else is crazy? This is happening in plain sight. These aren't anonymous sources whispering to reporters. These are members of Congress openly admitting they talked to a grand jury. They're putting their names on record, saying the party has become toxic. That's not leaking, that's screaming. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into this mess. We're going to break down exactly who's flipping, why they're flipping, and what it means for the future of the Republican Party. And trust me, it's worse than you think. Alright, so let's get into the details here, because this story has layers that most people aren't seeing yet. The surface level stuff, that's dramatic enough. But when you dig deeper, man, this is a complete meltdown of everything Trump built over the last few years. First, let's talk about who these two GOP lawmakers are and why their defection matters so much. Now, CNN isn't naming them specifically in their reporting, but sources close to the investigation say these are people who were in Trump's inner circle during his presidency. We're talking about true believers here, the kind of folks who went on Fox News every night defending every single thing Trump did. And now they're sitting across from prosecutors saying, yeah, the atmosphere is toxic. Yeah, our priorities have shifted. Like, what does that even mean? It means they're covering their own backsides. That's what it means. When someone says their priorities have shifted, what they're really saying is, I'm not going down with this shit. The grand jury angle is crucial here. This isn't some congressional committee where you can plead the fifth and play games. This is a criminal investigation with real prosecutors asking real questions under oath. And perjury, that's a federal crime. So suddenly, all those talking points and all that spin doesn't work anymore. You either tell the truth or you risk everything. Johnson's problem is that he made himself the face of Trump's defense in Congress when other Republicans were trying to distance themselves, trying to focus on policy and elections. Johnson went the opposite direction. He doubled down. He made it his mission to protect Trump from investigations and to rally the caucus around defending him. That strategy works great until it doesn't. And right now, it really, really doesn't. Because every person who flips, every ally who starts cooperating, it makes Johnson look like either a liar or a fool. Either he knew what was going on and covered it up, or he was so blinded by loyalty that he had no idea what was happening around him. Let's talk about that leaked memo for a second. How staffers don't just leak memos about growing panic for fun. That kind of leak happens when people inside the building are freaking out and want the public to know how bad things really are. It's a cry for help. It's staffers saying, our bosses have lost control and we're all going down unless something changes. The phrase irreparable damage to party unity is doing a lot of work in that memo. What that's really saying is, the splits we're seeing right now might be permanent. This isn't like a normal political disagreement where everyone argues for a while and then moves on. This is fundamental. This is about whether you're on Team Trump or Team Save Yourself, and those two things can't coexist anymore. Come on, we've seen this pattern before. Remember during the impeachment hearings? There were cracks then too, but Trump was able to keep everyone in line because the consequences were political, not legal. You could vote to acquit and face angry voters, or vote to convict and face Trump's wrath. Most chose Trump's wrath over voter anger. But this is different. This isn't about political survival. This is about actual criminal liability. When prosecutors start asking about obstruction and conspiracy, that's not a political game anymore. That's your life and your freedom on the line. And the timing, man, the timing is just brutal for Republicans. They're trying to position themselves for 2026. They're trying to show voters they can govern and lead and be trusted with power. Instead, they're showing everyone that their entire party is built around one guy's legal problems. How does that play in swing districts? How does that play with independent voters? Social media is having a field day with this. The abandon ship hashtag isn't just trending, it's exploding. 75,000 posts in 48 hours means people are paying attention. They're watching Republicans turn on each other and they're eating it up. Some are celebrating, some are mocking, but everyone's watching. And here's what's really interesting about the social media reaction. It's not just Democrats piling on. There are plenty of Republicans in those threads saying, good, finally someone's standing up to this madness. There are conservatives arguing that the party needs to move on from Trump if it's ever going to win elections again. That internal divide is going to tear the GOP apart. You've got one faction that thinks loyalty to Trump is everything, and another faction that thinks Trump is destroying the party's future. And right now, with grand juries and investigations and people flipping, that second faction is getting louder. Legal experts are already gaming this out. If more allies flip, if more people start cooperating, it creates a cascade effect. Each person who flips makes it easier for the next person to flip. Because if you're sitting on information and you see everyone else getting deals by talking, you're going to talk too. Nobody wants to be the last one holding the bag. MSNBC had a legal analyst on yesterday who said something that really stuck with me. He said this could undermine Trump's political standing heading into the primaries, but it could also undermine his legal defense. Because when your own allies are testifying against you, when they're saying under oath that things happened that you said didn't happen, that's devastating in a courtroom. Johnson's got no good options here. If he keeps defending Trump, he looks like he's ignoring reality and protecting someone who might be guilty. If he backs away from Trump, he loses the support of the MAGA base and probably loses his speakership. He's trapped. And let's be real about what toxic atmosphere means. That's political speak for this whole thing is falling apart, and I don't want to be associated with it anymore. It means I've seen things that make me uncomfortable, and I'm distancing myself before it's too late. It's the political equivalent of seeing smoke and running before the fire gets to you. The other phrase that keeps showing up is shifting priorities. What priorities exactly? Like Republicans' priorities should be governing and winning elections and advancing conservative policies. But instead, their priority has been protecting Trump from legal consequences. And now, some of them are finally admitting that maybe, just maybe, that wasn't the best strategy. Here's what's even more interesting though. The people who are flipping aren't doing it quietly. They're going to CNN. They're making statements. They're being public about their decision to cooperate. That's significant because it suggests they're not just trying to save themselves. They're trying to send a message to other Republicans that it's okay to break ranks. Think about the calculation these lawmakers are making. They know that cooperating with prosecutors means they're going to get destroyed by the MAGA base. They know Trump's going to attack them on social media. They know they might face primary challenges, but they're doing it anyway, which tells you how serious they think this legal situation is. And Johnson? He's watching all this unfold and he can't do anything about it. He can't threaten these members because they don't care anymore. He can't promise them anything that matters more than staying out of legal trouble. His power, such as it was, has completely evaporated. The Republican conference is apparently in total disarray right now. According to multiple reports, there have been closed-door meetings where members are screaming at each other. Some are demanding that leadership distance itself from Trump. Others are demanding that anyone who cooperates with prosecutors get kicked out of the caucus. There's no middle ground, no compromise, just chaos. Here's the bottom line on this part. Johnson thought he could manage this. He thought he could keep everyone in line through the investigations and the grand juries and all of it. But he underestimated how scared people get when they're facing real legal jeopardy. He underestimated how quickly loyalty disappears when the alternative is a prison sentence. Okay, so let's break this down into what actually matters going forward, because this isn't just about drama in Washington. This is about the future of American politics and what happens when a party ties itself to one person's legal problems. Point 1, this revolt fundamentally changes the math for Trump. Up until now, he's been able to count on Republican support in Congress, no matter what happened. They voted against impeachment. They blocked investigations. They ran interference for him constantly. But if allies are flipping and cooperating with prosecutors, that support system is collapsing. Think about what that means practically. If Trump needs Republicans to protect him from future investigations, who's going to do it now? If he needs someone to carry water for him on cable news, who's going to volunteer after watching what happened to Johnson? The cost of loyalty just got way higher and the benefits got way lower. And here's the thing. Trump's whole political strategy has always been based on loyalty. You defend me, I defend you. You attack my enemies, I support your re-election. It's transactional, but that only works when Trump can actually deliver on his end of the bargain. When his endorsement becomes toxic, when being associated with him becomes a legal liability, the whole system breaks down. Point 2, Johnson's speakership is probably over. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but this kind of revolt doesn't just blow over. Once you lose the confidence of your caucus, once they start seeing you as a liability instead of a leader, it's pretty much impossible to get that back. And Republicans have shown they have no problem removing speakers who become problems. The leaked memo basically sealed his fate. When your own staff is leaking documents about panic and irreparable damage, you've lost control. Leadership can't survive that. The only question now is whether Johnson resigns or gets forced out. But either way, he's done. And you know what's going to happen next? There's going to be a brutal fight over who replaces him. The MAGA wing is going to want someone even more loyal to Trump. The establishment wing is going to want someone who can actually get things done without creating constant scandals. and neither side has the votes to win without the other. So we're looking at weeks of chaos and failed votes and total dysfunction. Point 3, and this is the big one. This shows the Republican Party is fracturing in a way that might be permanent. We're not talking about normal political disagreements here. We're talking about fundamental splits over whether to stand with Trump through legal jeopardy or to try and save the party by moving on. Those special election losses that Republicans have been suffering, they're not random. Voters are watching this chaos and deciding they don't want any part of it. When swing voters see Republicans eating each other alive over Trump's legal problems instead of focusing on issues that matter to families, they vote Democrat. It's that simple. And here's where it gets really interesting. The 2026 primaries are going to be absolutely brutal. You're going to have Trump loyalists primarying anyone who doesn't defend him, while establishment Republicans try to find candidates who can actually win general elections. That money and energy that should be going toward beating Democrats is going to get burned up in internal warfare. Can you believe this is where we are? The party that used to pride itself on unity and discipline is now completely unable to hold itself together. And it's all because they made one person more important than the party itself. Point 4. The legal implications here are massive. Every person who cooperates with prosecutors gives them more ammunition. Every insider who testifies under oath makes the case stronger. We don't know exactly what these grand juries are investigating, but we know it's serious enough that Trump allies are willing to flip rather than stay loyal. That cascade effect I mentioned earlier is already starting. 2 people flipped this week. How many more are thinking about it right now? How many more are talking to lawyers about whether they should cooperate before it's too late? This is how these things snowball, and Trump can't do anything about it. He can't intimidate people into staying quiet when they're facing federal prosecutors. He can't offer them anything that's worth risking prison time. His main tool, his ability to make or break political careers, doesn't mean much when the alternative is criminal charges. Let me put this in perspective. We're potentially looking at a situation where dozens of Trump's closest allies end up testifying against him, not because they suddenly grew a conscience, but because they got caught and they're trying to save themselves. That's how these things usually go. The first person who flips gets the best deal. The second person gets a pretty good deal. Everyone after that, they're scrambling for whatever they can get. So, what comes next? Well, expect more defections, expect more leaks, expect the chaos to get worse before it gets better, because once this kind of revolt starts, it's really hard to stop. Everyone who's been sitting on the fence is going to look at what happened this week and make their choice. Johnson's going to try to hold on, but he's in an impossible position. The MAGA wing won't forgive him if he distances himself from Trump. The establishment wing won't forgive him if he keeps defending Trump. There's no middle ground anymore. For Trump, this is probably the beginning of the end of his grip on the Republican Party, not because Democrats finally got him, but because his own people decided he wasn't worth the risk anymore. When you build everything on personal loyalty, and then that loyalty evaporates, there's nothing left. And for voters, this is a clear signal that the Republican Party has no idea what it stands for anymore beyond defending one guy. That's not a governing agenda. That's not a vision for the country. That's just survival, and barely that. Think about it from a regular voter's perspective. You're trying to decide who to vote for in 2026. Do you vote for the party that's constantly embroiled in legal scandals and internal fighting? Or do you vote for the party that's at least trying to talk about actual issues? For a lot of people, especially independents and moderates, the answer is pretty obvious. The Republican Party is hemorrhaging support among suburban voters, among women voters, among educated voters, and scandals like this just make it worse. Every day they spend fighting over Trump's legal problems is a day they're not winning over the voters they need to win elections. Here's another angle most people aren't talking about: the impact on fundraising. Big donors don't like chaos. They don't like uncertainty. They want to invest in candidates and causes that have a chance of winning. When your party is tearing itself apart over legal investigations, those donors start looking elsewhere. They start cutting checks to Democrats, or they just sit on their money. And without money, you can't run effective campaigns. You can't get your message out. You can't compete in competitive districts. So this revolt doesn't just hurt Republicans politically, it hurts them financially too. The bottom line is this: we're watching a political realignment happen in real time. The Republican Party that exists 6 months from now is going to look very different from the one that exists today. Some people are going to get purged. Some people are going to quit. Some people are going to flip. And what's left? Who knows? But here's what we do know. Johnson's in trouble. Trump's allies are abandoning ship. And the GOP is facing an internal civil war that could define politics for years to come. This isn't just another scandal that'll blow over. This is a turning point. And honestly, it's about time. You can't build a political party around protecting one person from legal consequences forever. Eventually, reality catches up. Eventually, people decide their own future matters more than someone else's past. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. The question isn't whether more people are going to flip, it's how many and how fast. The question isn't whether Johnson survives, it's who replaces him and whether they can actually unite the party. The question isn't whether this hurts Republicans in 2026, it's how badly. What we're witnessing is the collapse of a political strategy that was always built on sand. You can't sustain a movement based purely on personal loyalty to one person, especially when that person is facing serious legal problems. Eventually, people start asking what they're getting out of the deal. Eventually, self-preservation kicks in, so keep watching, because this story is far from over. More shoes are going to drop, more allies are going to flip, and the chaos, yeah, it's only getting started. This is the beginning of something big, and nobody knows exactly where it ends. But one thing's for sure, the Republican Party is never going to be the same after this.